Hello guys, just Goron here and welcome back to the third episode of building Beekse Bergen. And in today's episode we will be looking at the entrance area. It's been there for a while. I had some floating roofs of thatch indicating where the entrance area was going to be, but today we will be putting some stuff underneath those thatch roofs to make it look like the actual entrance of the zoo. Now, this has been a long and iterative process, with a lot of errors being made along the way, which is kind of how things have been going up to this point. I build something, I find out it's wrong, and then I do it good, and that is why things take forever. But, you know, as long as we have fun along the way. Speaking of things going wrong, this is actually the second time I'm doing this voiceover, because earlier just now I finished talking and then I realized that I wasn't actually recording. So now I'm actually going to double check. Yes, we are recording. Okay, fantastic. And yeah, so over here you can see a little house being built out of painted wooden planks. On the roof I tend to rotate the planks here and there to alternate. I also use some 1 meter pieces along with the 2 meter pieces to give it just some alternating textures. What you want to try and achieve is not it to look like you copy pasted the same plank over and over again. So I actually have to go ahead and change those the walls. And over here is something I noticed while visiting the park the other day. There's actually some text on this side of the building. I didn't have any references of that side, so I didn't know when I built the building that was there. But now we've added that, and we're working on starting to finally work on the things underneath the thatch. So this is the door I built for the restaurant. I really like it. I'm actually really happy with how it looks. But I have to repaint it. I actually have to do this over because I want it to be a different color, I think. I'm gonna hold off on doing that until I visit the zoo again next week, because I'm gonna look if it indeed is the color I think it is, or if it should just keep it white. And over here I'm placing some windows. This is kind of like a service desk sort of room, where you can buy your tickets and then enter the park, or you can just have some questions about like the car safari, things like that. I had to pick up my subscription at that desk as well, so that's why I put a service point in there. The only problem with it is that if people want to use the service desk, you have to enter the zoo first, then walk back to go to the service desk, and then go back into the zoo. So they kind of walk back and forth between the entry point and the service desk, but it's fine. Okay, so over here is the official exit of the zoo. Is a rotating door piece, and next to it is a very small piece of wall, which you'll see me put after. Okay, so these pillars were way too thick, so I exchanged them for painted beams, which looked tons better. I'm really happy with their size and everything. But now we're going to start working on this little tiny piece of, well, I don't even know what to call it really. There's a window on it, which makes me believe that it's possible to go inside, but I would have no earthly idea what is actually inside of this and how you get in. Actually there's like 3 of these, and the other 2 are a bit bigger, so I can imagine someone being able to sit in there, selling tickets, answering questions and stuff like that. But I didn't spot, on my reference pictures I didn't spot any doors, so next time I visit the zoo I'm going to check out if there's any doors on these and where they are, because then we're going to have to add those. But it's basically kind of a plaster bottom, and then on top of it it's made out of metal. So I've used these plastic art pieces again, that we also used on the roof of the monkey house to get it right. And now I'm copying that color over to these windows, and I'm thinking that's also the color the door needs to be. So that's why I'm gonna hold off on repainting it, and I'm gonna check just to be sure. So getting this thing up and running was pretty good. and now it's gonna be a case of doing using the same kind of pieces to put together a round one, because in the middle here is supposed to be round. You can see me kind of fumble about. This is the pillar technique you can use to make rotated buildings, and I've just been kind of screwing it up. I wasn't really thinking about what I was doing. I think it was already getting pretty late at this point. But I realized that instead of making the building wider, I could just put it closer to the center, and then when you rotate it, it will line up, but it still didn't quite. And yeah, I just kind of messed about, especially with the 45-degree rotation. I removed the pillar, which caused it to be off center, and I had to fix everything, and it was just messy. It didn't work very well, but eventually I got it right. It was just a lot more effort than it should have been, because the pillar technique is supposed to make it a lot easier, and I still spend a lot of time kind of fumbling about. But now I'm putting in some windows as close to the edge as possible, and that kind of finishes the look of that, especially except that there's a open roof there, which isn't supposed to be there, and now I'm doing something really stupid again with these logs. I chose the weirdest way to place them down. But I mean, eventually it all worked out, so it's whatever. Now I'm putting some logs in the ceiling to give it a bit more detail, and we will shut it off. I was looking for a nice dark round piece, couldn't really find anything, so I just decided to go with another art piece there, and that did the trick. And what's really nice about that little fetch building is that it's actually the exact same as like one over, so I can just copy paste it. Now over here I'm looking for some fences. I was checking if I downloaded any good fences off of the workshop, but I couldn't really find anything. This was close to what I wanted, but it was way too big, so instead I decided to just make my own, and you can see me do that now, putting in some of these poles to create a fence, and I find a bit of a slim other piece to do the top with, and that is the fence pretty much done. And that's the same fence I'll be using on each of these midsections. You can see the entrance is currently still in underneath the kind of main gate. What's kind of difficult about the entrances is that the park really varies their use of entrances a lot. So if the park is like nearly empty and they don't expect any visitors, they'll just let people in through the information center, so they'll keep the gates closed. On a different day they might check for tickets at the main gate, and on a completely different day, if it's really very busy, behind the main gate is this other little thatch roof, and that's where they will be checking the tickets on busy days. They'll have employees stand there. So what makes that difficult for me is I basically have to make a choice. At first I put entrances in both the information center and the main gate. That didn't work very well. It got very congested, and it got really hard to deal with the pathing as well, especially inside the information center, which is going through a lot of revisions right now still. I probably still have to change it quite a bit because it is not really accurate. I feel like there is going to be another building behind it, but I feel like it has to be further away from the path than it is right now. Then again, the paths are 4 meter wide, even though I feel like in real life they aren't. So that is something that I can say, like, okay, I have to draw a compromise, so the path is going to be closer to the building, or the building's going to be slightly over the path. I'll just have to see on my next visit, take some extra reference pictures, see what that really looks like, and then fix it up after that. Now what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the entrances. So what I decided upon, which you will see in a bit, or I think it's almost coming up, is that I decide to completely redo like half of the pathing of this main square bit and the entrance, and instead we are, because here I'm struggling with the pathing because it's just not doing anything I want it to. So I decide to drain the park, which will come up in a little bit, and then I just redo a bunch of the pathing and put the entrances in the second entrance, basically behind the main gate. So here I'm kind of painting it with what I mentioned in the last episode. The coarse dirt looks way better, so I'm kind of painting that onto there. But I should have done it later, because every time I kind of work with the path, it paints it back to the fine sand, which is a bit of a nuisance, but it's whatever. Yeah, you can see just constantly revising this information center building and looking at it like it's just not doing what I wanted to, and eventually I don't want to say I give up, but I kind of just cut the line for a moment and be like, okay, I'm gonna do it this way, and then I'm gonna take some reference pictures, and then when I get back from the zoo next time, I'll fix it up. So yeah, I do like the information center being in there, even though it creates problems. I just like the fact that the buildings are usable, and there you can see I drained the park, so I could just work on the paths in peace. Now you might be wondering, why don't I just always play with the park off? And I get why people do it. It makes it a bit more relaxed, and you don't have people walking in the way, because they are in the way sometimes. But I don't know, I just like seeing the zoo in action, seeing it live and breathe, and seeing people use the bathrooms and sit on the tables and stuff like that, and look at the animals. It also makes the time lapses a bit more interesting, because you can just see stuff move around even if I'm not doing much. You can see all the people walking, and also giving a sense of like speed. Because I pretty much always play on the regular speed. So yeah, that's why. But sometimes when doing pathing and stuff like this, it gets a bit annoying, and I turn it off. But I'll turn it on in a bit, as you will see. But right now we are doing a bunch of pathing, and you can kind of make out some tricks I use of like, oh, I need this entire area filled up. Let me just get a big area of path and have it automatically hook up to that, and then use a smaller piece of path to lock that other path into place, and then remove the initial bit, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't, because it's hard to imagine. I'm thinking of I've been thinking about the tutorial videos that I might want to be doing, but I find it hard to make scenarios. So I'm thinking of just getting these recordings at a regular speed, and then kind of showing what I do in my own park to fix up stuff that aren't working well. I think that will, because that will really give you an idea of like, oh yeah, that's how that's done. I couldn't tell from the time lapse, but now I can kind of see. So, well, we'll see in the future if I end up making those, because who knows. Now you can see the middle bit. There's some barrels there that I got off the Steam Workshop, and these logs are braces. And I actually didn't know up to this point that these were in the game. I think I found them the first time during making the monkey habitat, or the gorilla habitat. I also just, of course, at the moment I finish building the thing, I realize it should be in a different position, so I redo the pathing again. But these braces are actually very nice texture of wood. It's very clean and kind of processed and man-made, which sometimes is just the way that stuff looks. So that works quite well for this. And now I'm just doing a bunch of detailing all around, putting plants down, putting these fences down. And that fence is actually the reason I figured out why the thing was in the wrong position, because the fence has to make like that 90-degree turn, while mine was kind of just lined up to the building. And here I'm putting in some public toilets, which are over there. There's actually supposed to be a second set in the building with the pitched thatch roof, which we'll be putting in later. And now it's just a case of redoing all of this pathing, some of which is kind of become impossible due to the way that I changed other pieces of pathing. And this building has just become a mess of paths. It's just... it's the shops being there and just the way that the building is shaped does not allow it for path. But I managed to get the paths in well enough. And then on that other bit, this one, I screw around with the pathing a lot as well, but I can't get it right. Though I do realize I should have just used the method I used on the other side of the square. So we'll try that probably off camera, or at the start of the next episode, because I feel like I can get that right. But yeah, now it's just a case of the final pieces of detail, and then the episode will be over. So just gonna finish up this toilet area. I was looking at signs and stuff like that, but yeah, I think that bit there was my roommate walking in and me showing him around the park. But yeah, over here you can see the toilets kind of in action. Even though they're sunk down like that, it actually looks pretty natural when people walk in and out. It's just, if you play it at regular speed, you can kind of see them rise out of the floor. But it looks fine. Now at this point I realized that this building actually has a flat roof, and I'm hiding the toilets now, so nothing weird to see there, folks. And I also realized the color of this is off, so I'm just changing that a bit. And sometimes it's hard to get to a piece. And now I'm using the corrugated plastic after all to get this little overhang right, which is looking great. It's simple but effective. And oh yeah, last thing of the episode is that I wanted to do this for a while, but basically all over the park they're using the same kind of trash bins. So I thought, hey, if I make those, I only have to make them once and then I can put them all over the park. So why don't I do just that? So I take my time here to lay down there's basically two variants, like one with a red color and one with a orange color lid. And I put a bit of detail in. It's not super detailed, but I think it's good enough to get the point across of what it is. And I'll be putting those around the park, wherever they're meant to be. Now I know that there's a couple of different variations as well, but we'll use those, or we'll make those when we get to them. So over here they are meant to be placed. I had a lot of trouble actually putting in the actual trash can so that people are actually able to use it, ending up only putting one in one bit. But that's it. So here are some screenshots. I took my time to actually go through my reference pictures and make screenshots of a similar angle, so that should give you a better picture of how it correlates to the real deal. So that's gonna be it for this episode. Now in this episode we did like a human build again. Last episode we did a habitat. I think I kind of want to try and alternate between those two. So in the next episode we'll be working on another habitat, probably do some pathing as well, because I want to get to other pieces of the zoo and really get kind of the map done, so that we can then later go out and just build stuff. So yeah, that's what we'll be seeing in the upcoming episodes. So thanks for watching, see you guys in the next one, and have a good day.